From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, I am Win Peñano bringing you today's edition of Dateline Malacañang. Here are top Malacañang stories. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday joined literacy activities and inspected school preparedness efforts in Navotas as part of the nationwide Brigada Eskwela campaign ahead of the opening of classes on June 8. During the National Capital Region kickoff of Brigada Eskwela 2026 at Kapitbahayan Elementary School, the President participated in a storytelling session with grade 1 pupils reading Ang Matching at Ang Pagong, a classic Filipino tale popularized by national hero Jose Rizal. President Marcos also toured school facilities and inspected newly installed closed-circuit television cameras aimed at enhancing campus security. The President said the government remains committed to providing a safe and conducive learning environment as millions of students prepare to return to school. He also checked ongoing repair and maintenance work being carried out under Brigada Eskwela, where volunteers help clean, paint, and rehabilitate school facilities before the opening of classes. President Marcos noted that many of the volunteers are beneficiaries of the Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE's Tulong Panghanap Buhay sa Ating Disadvantaged or Displaced Workers or TUPAD program. According to the President, 147 schools have already benefited from the initiative, involving more than 3,600 workers and over 26 billion pesos in assistance. An additional 181 schools are expected to receive support, benefiting nearly 4,600 workers through more than 37 million pesos in funding. The President also observed the implementation of the Tara Basa program, which enlists college students to help younger learners improve their reading skills while receiving educational assistance.
Ito kinukuha natin yung mga college student na gustong tumulong at sila ay nagtuturo para pag summer, tinuturuan nila yung mga bata para maging mas magaling, magpasa at sila naman ay nabibigyan din ng tulong para sa kanilang pangangailangan para makapagtapos sila.
President Marcos likewise visited a reading nook established as part of efforts to expand access to books and learning materials through library hubs and community-based reading spaces. The President expressed optimism over the progress of the administration's literacy initiatives, citing the enthusiasm and reading abilities demonstrated by students during his visit.
Nakakatuwang makita na full blast tayo sa education sector at lahat ng pangangailangan ay kaya bigay ng pamahalaan at binibigay natin.
Brigada Eskwela 2026 carries the theme Bayanihan sa Paaralan, Nagkakaisa para sa Kaayusan at Kaalaman, and runs nationwide from June 1 to 5 in preparation for the opening of school year 2026 to 2027. The President said the government hopes all preparations will be completed before students return to classrooms next week.
Buong bansa, gagawin natin ito at sana by opening of class, tapos na tayo lahat. That's everything.
Third President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
In related news, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has directed the Department of Education or DepEd to ensure that public schools across the country are fully prepared for the reopening of classes on June 8. Speaking during the National Capital Region kickoff of Brigada Eskwela 2026 at Kapitbahayan Elementary School, President Marcos said the Education Department already knows the requirements needed to ensure a smooth start to the school year.
May instruction man ako at tiyakin nila na handa sila sa pagbukas ng eskwela, ng klase. Para naman hindi nabibitin ng mga bata. Tuloy-tuloy ang kanilang pag-aaral.
The president said government efforts remain focused on improving school facilities and providing a safe and conducive environment for learning. President Marcos led the launch of Brigada Eskwela 2026 alongside Education Secretary Juan Edgardo Angara under the theme Bayanihan sa Paaralan, Nagkakaisa para sa Kaayusan at Kaalaman. The annual nationwide maintenance program runs from June 1 to 5 and mobilizes teachers, parents, local government units, private organizations, and volunteers to prepare schools for the opening of school year 2026 to 2027. During his visit, the President inspected classroom preparations and school safety facilities as part of the government's readiness efforts. To help accelerate preparations, the administration has tapped beneficiaries of the Department of Labor and Employment's Tulong Panghanap Buhay sa Ating Disadvantaged or Displaced Workers or TUPAD program. Earlier, Labor Secretary Francis Tolentino said around 240,000 TUPAD beneficiaries would be deployed to approximately 5,000 schools nationwide. The workers will assist in painting, cleaning, repairs, and maintenance activities covering more than 200,000 classrooms. The initiative is being carried out in coordination with the Department of Education and parent-teacher associations to ensure schools are ready for the return of students even as the rainy season begins.
Dateline Malacañang.
In our news, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has proclaimed Naga City in Camarines Sur as a highly urbanized city after it met the population and income requirements under the Local Government Code of 1991. Under Proclamation Number 1267, Naga City recorded a population of more than 210,000 and an income of nearly 299 million pesos based on 1991 constant prices, qualifying it for highly urbanized city status. The proclamation makes Naga the country's 34th highly urbanized city, recognizing its growth as a major economic and governance center in the Bicol region. However, the declaration will take effect only after it is ratified through a plebiscite by the city's qualified voters as required by law. Acting Executive Secretary Ralph Recta signed the proclamation on May 26 by authority of the President.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Marcos administration is urging the public to continue supporting the Department of Health or DOH's 4 o'clock habit campaign against dengue and other mosquito-borne diseases, especially as the rainy season begins. During a palace briefing on Tuesday, Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro emphasized the importance of eliminating mosquito breeding sites to prevent the spread of dengue. She noted that the World Health Organization continues to recognize vector control as the primary strategy for preventing and controlling the disease.
Sa madaling salita, kapag walang lamok, walang dengue. Kaya mabisa ang kampanya na isinasagawa ng DOH sa pamumuno ng Secretary Herbosa na tuwing alas 4, ugaliin ang taob, taktak, tuyo, taki para kontra dengue.
The 4 o'clock habit, also known as alas 4 contra mosquito, encourages households to practice the 4-step approach of taob, taktak, tuyo, at takip, or flip, shake, dry, and cover containers that may collect stagnant water and serve as mosquito breeding grounds. Castro said the continued implementation of anti-dengue measures has helped bring down dengue cases across the country this year. According to the latest data from the Department of Health, dengue infections have declined by 57%, with 48,151 cases recorded so far this year compared to more than 110,000 cases during the same period last year. Meanwhile, Castro said the government remains cautious regarding the possible approval of the Kudenga dengue vaccine developed by Takeda Pharmaceutical Company. She explained that health authorities are still reviewing data related to the vaccine's effectiveness and safety. According to Castro, available information indicates that the vaccine showed lower efficacy among children aged 4 to 5 years old compared to those 6 years old and above. She added that regulators are also evaluating reports suggesting a possible risk of severe dengue serotype 3 among vaccinated individuals who had not previously contracted the disease.
Ayon po sa DOH, sinusuri pa ng Food and Drug Administration ang mungkahi ng aplikante para sa bakuna. Sabi kasi ng nailathalang datos, pinakamababa ang talab ng TAK 003 o Q-Denga sa mga batang 4 to 5 years old kumpara sa 6 years old pataas. Sabi rin kasi ng datos na hindi maisasantabi ang maaaring mas magkaroon ng madalang dengue serotype 3 sa mga nabakunahang hindi pa nagka-dengue dati. Sa ating bansa, dengue serotype 3 ang madalas na kumakalat. So abangan na lang po muna natin ang magiging tugon ng aplikante.
Department of Health continues to encourage the public to maintain preventive measures and participate in community cleanup efforts to help reduce mosquito breeding sites and keep dengue cases under control.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, continues to implement flood mitigation measures nationwide as part of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s Oplan Kontra Baha program aimed at reducing the impact of heavy rains during the rainy season. At a palace briefing on Tuesday, Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said government agencies are closely coordinating to improve flood management in vulnerable communities. Quoting Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon, Castro said the government is focused on ensuring that floodwaters recede more quickly than in previous years.
Tuloy-tuloy po ang paghahanda ng gobyerno para sa pagpasok ng tag-ulan. Hindi po pinapangako na hindi nababaha. Pero ang assurance ay nagtutulong-tulong ang mga concerned agencies to ensure na mas mabilis humupa ang tubig baha at siguruhin hindi ito natetenga ng matagal katulad ng dati.
Castro said the DPWH has been carrying out continuous dredging operations as well as clearing and declogging waterways in various areas since November of last year. She added that maintenance crews are also being rapidly deployed to flood-affected areas whenever needed.
Mabilis din nagde-deploy ang DPWH ng mga maintenance crew sa mga lugar na binabaha nito mga nakaraang araw.
To the palace, the government is already seeing positive results from completed drainage and improvement projects in several parts of Metro Manila. Among the areas cited were major road corridors along G. Araneta Avenue to E. Rodriguez Avenue, as well as A. Bonifacio Avenue and Taft Avenue. Castro said residents in these areas have reported noticeable improvements in drainage performance during periods of heavy rainfall.
Yung mga residente doon ay nagbigay na po at nagsabi ng positive feedback dahil nung nag-uulan ay mas tuloy-tuloy na ang pagbagsak ng ulan sa mga drainage na dati ay naiipon at siyang nagiging dahilan ng lagpas taong baha sa lugar.
That drainage upgrades along Bonifacio Avenue and Taft Avenue have also helped improve water flow, with reports showing that while flooding still occurred during intense rains, floodwater subsided more quickly than before.
Ganon din sa A. Bonifacio Avenue at Taft Avenue, natapos na rin po ang drainage improvement projects at naibalita na rin na mabilis bumaha pero humupa ang tubig sa Taft Avenue at UN Avenue.
Government says flood control and drainage improvement projects will continue as part of broader efforts to strengthen disaster preparedness and reduce the impact of flooding during the rainy season.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Malacañang has clarified that the proposed 240 peso fee for travelers entering and leaving the country remains under review and has not yet been approved. At a palace briefing on Tuesday, Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro said the proposal submitted by the Bureau of Immigration is still being evaluated and no final decision has been made on its implementation.
Sa ngayon po ay ito'y proposal pa lamang po according to Commissioner Joel Anthony Biado. So wala pa po itong anumang desisyon, wala pa pong nararating ito. Ito ay mere proposal. So wag po muna mag-alala ang ating mga kababayan dahil mas nauna po talaga silang mag-react. Wala pa po ito.
The proposed fee is intended to help fund the modernization and upgrading of the country's immigration system with the goal of improving border security and enhancing services for travelers. Castro said the government recognizes the importance of a safer and more modern border control system but stressed that any policy must be carefully studied before implementation.
Alam naman natin po kung ano po ang layunin nito. Ang layo nito ay magkaroon ng mas ligtas at mas modernong border control system, ngunit dapat itong maisakatuparan sa paraang malinaw, makatarungan at may tiwala ang publiko. Yan po ang sinasabi ni Commissioner Viado. But still, ito po ay nasa stage pa ng pag-aaral, kaya wala pa pong stance ang Pangulo patungkol dito.
When asked about concerns over imposing an additional charge on travelers despite the Bureau of Immigration's existing budget, Castro reiterated that the proposal is still under review and may still undergo changes. She emphasized that the measure could be revised, postponed, or even scrapped depending on the outcome of the evaluation.
Kaya nga wag natin munang pangunahan, inaaral pa po. Kaya nga po proposal pa lang. So pwedeng barilin, pwedeng hindi ipatupad, pwedeng hindi matuloy. So kaya wag muna tayo maalarma dahil wala pa po talaga to. It's just a proposal.
The Bureau of Immigration also issued a clarification on Tuesday saying the proposed fee linked to its border system modernization project remains under study and has not yet received final approval. For now, Malacañang is assuring the public that no additional travel fee has been authorized and that discussions on the proposal are still ongoing.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang says the ongoing turmoil inside the Senate is starting to affect not only the passage of key legislation but also investor confidence and the broader economy. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro made the statement following disruptions in Senate proceedings after the arrest of Senator Jinggoy Estrada on plunder and graft charges linked to alleged irregularities in flood control projects. Castro stressed that the executive branch remains ready to work with the Senate regardless of its leadership as long as priority measures are passed for the public. She said lawmakers should continue performing their duties despite the developments surrounding Estrada's arrest.
Sa parte po ng Pangulo, sa parte po ng ehekutibo, wala pong magiging issue. Kahit sino po ang leader sa Kongreso, makikipag-ugnayan, makikipag-cooperate ang ehekutibo para lamang maipasa ang mga priority bills para sa taong bayan. Ang Pangulo po ay hindi isipin ang sarili, hindi isipin ang sariling interes. So iyan po ang itanong natin sa Senado dahil tama po, hindi naman po kinakailangan na hindi magtrabaho kahapon dahil maski na po ang paghatid at pagsama kay Senator Jinggoy Estrada, bilang kaibigan ay nararapat lamang. Pero hindi po kinakailangang talikuran ang sariling mandato para lang sa ganitong klaseng issue.
Castro warned that prolonged political tension in the upper chamber could have wider consequences for the country.
Pero kung ganito po nangyayari sa Senado, mahihirapan po talaga. Hindi lamang ang Pangulo, kundi ang taong bayan. Apektado ang taong bayan dito. Pati po ang ekonomiya ay maaapektuhan sa ingay at gulo sa Senado.
Salas was responding to concerns that several administration-backed priority bills may be delayed as Congress approaches adjournment. The Senate is currently facing internal strain following Estrada's June 1 arrest over allegations involving more than 573 million pesos in supposed kickbacks from flood control projects. This situation has triggered a political standoff, with some senators boycotting sessions in protest and raising concerns over institutional independence, further complicating legislative proceedings in the chamber.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has approved key measures to strengthen the Philippines' space science and technology capabilities, including satellite development, telecommunications systems, and space safety initiatives. During the 9th meeting of the Philippine Space Council in Malacañang, officials reviewed developments in the country's space program and adopted several resolutions to expand the use of space-based technologies for national development. Among the approved measures is the declaration of the Multispectral Unit for Land Assessment or MULA Constellation Program as a national priority project. The Philippine Space Agency said the satellite system is expected to support disaster response, agriculture monitoring, environmental assessment, and resource management. The Council also approved the development of a Philippine sovereign geostationary telecommunications satellite system to improve connectivity, strengthen disaster resilience, and support government communications. Other measures include harmonizing satellite data use across agencies and adopting a national orbital debris response protocol amid increasing space activity over Philippine territory.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Space Agency, or PhilSA, says it will continue strengthening cooperation with the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, following the signing of a joint declaration of interest during President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s state visit to Japan. PhilSA said the partnership will focus on the use of Japanese satellite data for environmental monitoring, disaster management, and other space-related applications. The agency noted that the Philippines and Japan have a long history of collaboration in space activities, including co-hosting the 31st Asia-Pacific Regional Space Agency Forum in Cebu in 2025. PhilSA also highlighted the role of the Sentinel Asia program, which has helped Philippine agencies respond to floods, landslides, storms, earthquakes, oil spills, and volcanic activity through satellite-based emergency monitoring. Officials say the expanded cooperation will also support digital transformation, technological innovation, and food security initiatives.
Dateline Malacañang.
The government is mobilizing thousands of tupad workers for a large-scale cleanup and declogging operation across Metro Manila as part of intensified flood control and emergency livelihood efforts during the rainy season. The initiative was discussed in a coordination meeting led by Executive Secretary Ralph Recto with the Department of Labor and Employment, Department of Public Works and Highways, Department of Transportation, and the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority. The program will deploy workers to clear drainage systems, esteros, rivers, and other critical waterways to help reduce flooding in the National Capital Region. Officials said the effort provides both immediate flood mitigation and temporary employment, with Recto noting that the initiative addresses both flooding and livelihood concerns at the same time. The cleanup drive follows the onset of the southwest monsoon and is part of the administration's broader flood prevention and drainage rehabilitation program.
Dateline Malacañang.
More news from other agencies. Nearly 10,000 jeepney drivers and transport workers nationwide have received emergency employment assistance under the Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE's Tupad Tuloy Pasada program. As of May 28, the program had benefited 9,981 public utility jeepney drivers and transport workers, with more than 3,300 already completing their temporary employment and over 6,600 still undergoing work assignments. The initiative is being implemented in 10 regions and forms part of the government's response to rising fuel costs, providing temporary income support while allowing beneficiaries to continue serving commuters. The program has assisted transport workers in areas including Metro Manila, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Bicol, Western and Central Visayas, Northern Mindanao, Davao Region, Sorsogon, and Caraga. Under the Tupad Tuloy Pasada program, eligible workers receive temporary minimum wage employment as part of the government's broader uplift assistance package for the transport sector.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD is hosting the ASEAN High-Level Forum on Unlocking the Silver Economy in Pasay City from June 3 to 4, bringing together government leaders, development partners, academics, and civil society groups from across the region. Organized in partnership with the United Nations Population Fund and other international organizations, the forum aims to promote innovative and sustainable approaches to addressing the opportunities and challenges of an aging population in ASEAN. The event will focus on advancing policies and investments that empower older persons while recognizing their continued contributions to economic growth and community development. Discussions will cover health care, social protection, lifelong learning, entrepreneurship, innovation, and the role of technology in supporting aging populations. The DSWD says the initiative reflects the Philippines' commitment to inclusive development and stronger regional cooperation as chair of this year's ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community Pillar.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD has welcomed the approval of a substitute bill seeking to institutionalize the agency's Sustainable Livelihood Program or SLP by the House Committee on Social Services. DSWD spokesperson Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao said the measure would provide a stronger legal and policy framework for the long-term implementation of livelihood assistance programs nationwide. She said institutionalizing the SLP would help ensure the continuity of livelihood grants, skills training, and other interventions aimed at helping beneficiaries achieve stable sources of income. The bill was approved during a committee hearing chaired by Davao Oriental Representative Chino Miguel Almario and will next undergo review by the House Committee on Appropriations before being elevated for plenary deliberations. The DSWD expressed optimism that the measure will continue to gain support as part of the government's broader efforts to reduce poverty and promote economic self-sufficiency among Filipino families.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Education or DepEd is strengthening support for public schools ahead of the opening of classes and has reiterated that teachers are not required to spend their own money on classroom preparations. Education Secretary Sani Angaro said schools must maximize their maintenance and operating funds while the department continues to streamline administrative and financial support to ease the burden on teachers. The DepEd also reminded schools to strictly observe its no collection policy, prohibiting mandatory fees or contributions for Brigada Eskwela, enrollment, and other school opening activities. To help prepare campuses, around 240,000 workers under the TUPAD program will be deployed to 5,000 public schools nationwide to provide cleaning, maintenance, and logistical support. The department said these measures are part of efforts to help ensure or to ensure schools are ready for the opening of classes while allowing teachers to focus on teaching rather than administrative and financial concerns.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Agriculture or DA has intensified inspections of public markets nationwide to enforce the government's 50 pesos per kilo price cap on imported rice. Agriculture officials said surprise inspections are being conducted across the country with notices of violation issued to retailers found selling imported rice above the mandated ceiling or suspected of mislabeling rice products. The price cap imposed under Executive Order Number 118 covers imported rice with 5% broken grains and was ordered by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. to address what the government described as unjustified price increases and market abuse. The DA reported that 36 notices of violation have been issued so far, including cases in Metro Manila, Ilocos Region, Central Luzon, Bicol Region, and the Negros Island Region. Authorities say compliance is improving, with nationwide monitoring showing a compliance rate of more than 47%, although the inspections will continue to protect consumers from overpricing and ensure lower rice prices reach households.
Dateline Malacañang.
More than 2,500 agrarian reform beneficiaries in Cagayan and Isabela are expected to benefit from newly completed farm-to-market road projects worth over 202 million pesos in the Cagayan Valley region. The Department of Agrarian Reform or DAR said the projects cover nearly 12 kilometers of roads designed to improve market access, reduce transportation costs, and make it easier for farmers to deliver their produce and obtain farm supplies. Among the completed projects are road networks in Claveria, Cagayan, and several municipalities in Isabela, including Cabagan, Malig, Burgos, and Ilagan City. The agency said infrastructure development in the region is continuing, with 13 additional farm-to-market road projects worth more than 252 million pesos currently under implementation. The DAR added that new irrigation and slope protection projects are also being rolled out to boost agricultural productivity and strengthen rural economies.
Dateline Malacañang.
The province of Aklan has received 26.5 million pesos worth of patient transport vehicles and medical equipment from the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office or PCSO to help improve healthcare services in the province. PCSO General Manager Melquiades Robles said the assistance includes 2 patient transport vehicles to enhance emergency medical response, particularly in remote and underserved communities. Dr. Rafael Tumbocon Memorial Hospital also received advanced medical equipment, including a low-temperature plasma sterilizer, a fully automated PCR system, ventilators, and an anesthesia machine to strengthen its diagnostic and critical care services. Aklan Governor Jose Enrique Martin Miraflores formally received the assistance during a turnover ceremony in Calibo. The province also received more than 363,000 pesos at its share from PCSO Lotto revenues, which will support local health programs and other public services.
Dateline Malacañang.
Despite the onset of the southwest monsoon or habagat, a large part of the country may continue to experience high heat index levels through mid-June, according to the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA. PAGASA Administrator Nathaniel Servando said hot and humid conditions remain possible, particularly in coastal and low-lying areas where high temperatures combine with elevated humidity levels. He noted that areas such as Daet in Camarines Norte and Virac in Catanduanes could still experience dangerous heat index levels even during the rainy season. While heat index readings are generally expected to decline with the arrival of the monsoon, Pag-asa said danger level heat indices ranging from 42 to 51 degrees Celsius remain possible in some areas. The Weather Bureau is advising the public to stay hydrated, wear light clothing, avoid prolonged exposure to the sun, and to continue monitoring weather updates.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB has suspended 20 buses and trucks from 3 transport companies following separate road crashes in Quezon Province and Nueva Ecija. LTFRB Chair Vigor Mendoza II said the agency is investigating the incidents to determine accountability, identify possible safety lapses, and prevent similar accidents in the future. Among those affected are 15 buses of Victory Liner, 1 bus of Filtranco, and 4 trucks owned by a private trucking operator. The crashes resulted in fatalities and prompted the issuance of show-cause orders against companies involved. Mendoza said public transport franchises are privileges that carry the responsibility of ensuring the safety of passengers and other road users. The LTFRB warned that operators found violating safety regulations could face the revocation of their franchises.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Land Transportation Office or LTO has issued a subpoena to motorcycle vlogger Lucifer following a viral post that allegedly showed a fake show cause order and other purportedly official LTO documents. LTO Chief Assistant Secretary Marcos Lacanilao said the agency is requiring the vlogger to appear before its Intelligence and Investigation Division at the Central Office for a clarificatory conference regarding the post. The LTO said the circulation of fake or misleading official documents is a serious matter, warning that it undermines public trust and can create confusion about government processes. Officials also urge the public to verify information only through official LTO channels or offices to avoid the spread of misinformation.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes today's edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, I am Win Peñano. Good day.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.